1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12 through 20. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by anything. Food is meant for the stomach, and the stomach for food, and God will destroy both one and the other. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And God raised the Lord, and will also raise us up by his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of a prostitute? Never. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a prostitute becomes one body with her? For, as it is written, the two will become one flesh. But he who is joined to the Lord becomes one spirit with him. Flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you are bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. One problem the Church of Corinth faced was that the members of the church were affected by the worldly philosophical teachings of their time. Ancient Greeks loved to reason in philosophical teachings, and one teaching that was prominent during Paul's time was a teaching by Plato. Plato reasoned that the body and the soul were separate, and many ancient Greeks were justifying their indulgences by applying Plato's teaching to their lavish lifestyle. In short, whatever one did in the body would not have any consequences to the soul, they reasoned. Because some of the Corinthians have justified their actions with the worldly philosophy, Paul was taking the same analogy and having the Corinthians understand the difference between the worldly philosophy and godly holiness. Paul establishes that the sin of sexual immorality is a sin that is committed not only on the physical level, outside the body, but on the spiritual level, which is inside the body as well. The reason Christians cannot live indulging in pleasures the same as the world is that we have been saved by the death and resurrection of Christ. So, we're now one with God in spirit, and committing sexual immorality is committing a grave sin against the Lord, which should never be done. Paul warns explicitly against the sin of sexual immorality since the members of the church turn a blind eye to it. But the principle behind Paul's reasoning can be applied to all aspects of sin. There is a higher degree of standard we adhere to, which is different from this world. Hence Paul's argument in verse 12. We're not to indulge our fleshly desires and then try to justify using worldly ideals. Paul completely turns around by teaching us to think in godly perspective. We are to live so that God is revealed in every action we take. Galatians chapter 5 verse 16 and 17 says, "But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other to keep you from doing the things you want to do." As we meditate on today's passage, let us take the warning of Paul to heart and live not to please ourselves, but to live and walk by the Spirit of God.